And before I introduce you to Lorraine Stone, aka Harriet Tubman, I'd like you to just hear a little bit about all the creative things that Lorraine does. Lorraine Stone, performance artist, is a native of Asbury Park, New Jersey, currently residing in Eatontown. Lorraine got her start on stage as a child at Bethel AME Church in Asbury, reciting poetry for church functions. There, she discovered the works of Paul Laurence Dunbar, as recited by a church member who knew all of Dunbar's poems written in dialect. By the age of 16, she was on her way to becoming a performance poet, performing at many local churches. Those early days laid the groundwork for the creation of her one-woman show, Words, Rhythm, and Love. She has been featured in many productions of Dunbar Repertory Company, including her role as Bessie Delaney in Having Our Say, the Delaney sisters' first 100 years. She has also portrayed matriarch Lena Younger in 3 productions of Raisin in the Sun. Most recently, she appeared in Sassy Mamas and also Butterfly Confessions, both with Dunbar Repertory Company in Middletown. Her next role is the Shakin' the Mess Out of Misery at Middletown Art Center. Lorraine portrays African American sheroes, such as Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, and Ida B. Wells Barnett, with her performance company, LLPL Wisdom Keepers. She brings these and others to life in schools, libraries, churches, historical societies, and various local stages. Finally, as a performance poet and storyteller, Lorraine presents the works of such African poets as James Weldon Johnson, Paul Laurence Dunbar, and Langston Hughes. And without further ado, I present to you Swing Low, Miss Chariot. Lorraine, it is yours.
Swing low, swing low, swing low, chariot coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot coming forth to carry me home. That's my favorite song. Y'all know that? Because, when them chariots come on down from heaven, well, they swing low down here and they just lift you up and take you on up out of this world. Now, I want to share some stories with you today. Don't have a whole lot of time. But the first thing I want to tell you is there's another song that I think you might have heard. This song was real important to people. Go like this. Steal away home. I ain't got long to stay here. Now, when you heard that song, them words mean something special. Didn't mean you was going home to Jesus right there. No. That song meant I'm coming to get you, to carry you to the free land. Oh, going on up there. away from slavery, going on up there into the freedom. Now, when that song, somebody in the quarters there, they sing it, and that's because they know I'm nearby, and I'm coming on through. Just gather you on up. You know, the first time I run, I was about 25, and I ran off with my older brothers. I was ready to go. I know God didn't mean for nobody to be no slave. I know God didn't mean for no man to own no other man. So when they said, we're going to go, I said, I'm ready. And we lit out. After about a day, my brothers, they got scared. They said, we got to turn back. Oh, if they catch us, we're going to be in trouble. We got to go back. And I said, no, we got to keep on going. And there's no way they'll catch us if we keep on going. But they wanted to go back. And I had to go on back with them. We went on back, and I think the rest I hadn't even noticed we was gone somehow. Otherwise, we'd have sure been whooped. But we weren't. We just went on back. You know, I never had much of a life, or no childhood. So I know that I had to go and find another way to live life so I could really live my life. Slave children didn't have no childhood, you know. Had to go to work. As soon as you could stand up, you was working, taking care of the other babies, even though you was a baby, picking the weeds, flowers from around the house until you was old enough to get out in the field and work. Sometimes the little ones would carry out the bucket and the dipper of water so the slaves working out there in the field could have something to drink. I like this song. Bring me little water, Sylvie. Bring me little water now. Bring me little water, Sylvie. Every little once in a while. Make me think of the children bringing the dipper out there. It was hot in them fields, but I liked it outside. I liked to spend time with my Papa Ben. Now, my Papa Ben worked in wood, and he knew all about the earth and the sky. Papa Ben the one that taught me what herbs to use to heal things. He the one that taught me all about the stars. That Big Dipper. Follow that drinking gourd, because that's going to lead you. The North Star, he told me. That's right on the handle of that drinking gourd, and that's the way you had to go. Taught me that the moss grow on the north side of the trees, so I could know which way was north. Now I was a little girl. I didn't know none of this was going to help me no time. But I listened to my Papa Ben. And one day, when they had rented me out to somebody else, I was sitting in the stove waiting. I came with one of the other slaves from the kitchen. We was getting some supplies, and a slave run through the door. And the overseer was right behind me. And the overseer said to me, get him. And I didn't want to catch no slave for no overseer. So I stepped right out in front of the slave so the overseer couldn't get him. But the overseer had a big old heavy weight, and he threw it, trying to hit that slave, hit me right here in my head. You see my bandana right here? Well, that's where it hit me. And it broke the skin, broke my head. So my My rag was just right inside my head. Oh, it was bleeding awful. Didn't have nowhere to take me. Didn't have no doctors for no slave, you know. They laid me right on the seat for the loom, the spinning loom. They ain't had nowhere to lay me down. Mm. And my head just kept a bleeding. It was a bleeding into the next day. Well, they just knew I wasn't no good then. Wasn't gonna be no good for nothing. They carried me on back home to my mama. My mama was Harriet. Hmm. My mama was a good woman. She worked in the big house. And my mama knew something about healing. So they brought me home so my mama could take care of me. She nursed me every day. Took a long time, but I started to come round, started to come back to myself. One day I felt strong enough. I wanted to go outside and play with the other children. Master Broder saw me outside. He thought that meant it was time for me to go back to work. Started bringing some men around to see if they could want to buy me. I didn't look too good. Still had a big old hole in my head. Ain't nobody want to buy no broke down slave. So I just stayed there and got stronger and got better. And when I did get strong, I wanted to go work outside. And that's where I was working, chopping and pulling and bailing. And I met John Tubman. Now, my name, I hope y'all know my name is not Harriet. I was born Araminta Ross. Minty, they used to call me when I was a little girl. Just knee high to the duck. They called me Minty. Now, my mama was Harriet. When I met John Tubman, and John Tubman kind of liked me, and I liked John Tubman. But John Tubman was a free man. But we got permission to marry. John Tubman went to the master, and he said, yes, we could marry. So we jumped the broom, and I changed my name to honor my mama. I changed it to Harriet, and I took John Tubman's name. And that's how I be Harriet Tubman. I kept on working. Even though John was free, he didn't have to work because he ain't had no master. I kept right on working. I always had the mind I was going to save enough money to buy my freedom. Working hard every day. Save my little coins. One day I asked John Tubman, was this enough? He just laughed at me, said, this don't buy nobody. And the next time I went back to look for my money, it was gone. I knew freedom had to be in my life. And I ran into this woman one day walking down the road. And she asked me, did I want to be free? She was a white woman. I didn't know who this was. I run away, went on the other direction. But a few days later, I see her again. And she asked me the same thing. I did the same thing again. I went on down the road. But the third time I saw her, I said, I want to be free. Now, that woman's what they call a Quaker. I didn't know that then. She said, I have some things to tell you that will help you get free. You lit out on this road, and she told me what house to go to, how to knock, who to ask for when I got there. Oh, I thought maybe I can listen to this white woman and give me some freedom. And she said one thing. She said, ye are journeying from hope through faith to God be praised. I like that. I held on to that. I kept that with me. Now, I didn't tell nobody I was going to run off. Couldn't tell my mama because my mama cried. Oh, she just tell everybody. So I couldn't tell my mama. And I didn't want to tell John Tubman. I thought when I got free, I would come back and see him. But now I was just going on down the road. And I sure wasn't going to tell my brothers that was too afraid to stay gone the first time. So I went on, traveling, step by step, running, hiding, ducking, staying out of the open places, running through the weeds, running through the high grasses, getting to the first house, knocking, letting somebody open and let me in, give me some food, give me some water. I run on like that till I found my way to Philadelphia. And I was free. I was free. Hallelujah, I was free. I looked at my hands and my hands was new. I looked at my feet and my feet was new too. Oh, I could rejoice and praise. But I really didn't feel no joy, didn't feel no real happiness because my whole family was still back there in slavery. I couldn't be happy to be free when my family was still a slave. And I decided right then I was going to go on back until I got every member of my family out of the slavery. Yes. And that's what I did. I made Philadelphia my home because there was a lot of good people there that could help me. And I went on back down, gathered up one sister and a cousin, and my cousin's wife had a baby. Now, one thing about traveling with a baby, you know, babies do cry. And one thing I had to buy when I made the little money I made from working, I had to buy something to help the babies go to sleep. So I got some laudanum. Y'all probably don't know nothing about that. Laudanum was strong stuff. Just put it over the baby's nose and let him breathe, and he'd go right on to sleep. So I would travel on with the babies and the men's and the women's, going through water. Sometimes had to hold the babies up high out the water. And we went on that way. I would go on down, get some more folk, come on back up, come through Philadelphia, and we would settle in New York. It was safe. It was free country until 1850. Now the government started a new thing called the Fugitive Slave Law. That means anybody find a runaway slave or any kind of slave or any kind of Black person, they can just take them somewhere and say this is a slave that tried to run. And they just turn you over, and that was the end of your freedom. I knew right then, New York wasn't safe. It was cold in New York, but we had to go on further north, out of this country. We went to Canada, started taking group of peoples to Canada. St. Catharines, that's where we went. Oh, Lord, it was mighty some kind of cold. But we huddled together. And I knew some people. I had some friends, and they helped us with a little money and a little food until we could get ourselves together. And then I'd go on back again. I had got most of my family in. One sister, she just wouldn't come. I could never get her to come. And my mom and my papa, I had to get them old men and rich. And when I got back down, my mama said she wanted to bring her big old feather bed. And my papa, he wanted to bring all his tools from all those days of working. I said, yes, we can do that. I had to figure it out. I got me a buckboard, put a plank across the front, got an old horse and hitched it up, threw mama's feather bed in the back and papa's tools too. And we head on out the road. Now, sometimes when I could and I had the money, I could hire a boat to take us part the way. And that's what I did with my mama and papa because they were so old. They couldn't walk and they sure couldn't run. So I hired a boat, took them part the way. Then I met up with them later, kept on going, and we got to Canada. But I couldn't get my sister. My sister had died before I could get back for her. I found her 2 children though, boy and a girl, and I brought them on too. That was all of my family. I had got everybody. But soon things really started changing. Heard word about a war coming. Heard word about a war between the North and the South. And it wasn't no more running to be done. Wasn't safe to be in the woods. No, it never was, but it wasn't good now with a war on. Somebody in New York, in Auburn, where some of my family lived, and they knew I was there sometime. They got word to me that the Union Army would like me to come and work for them, to be in their service. I went on. I was a nurse, a cook. I helped out the doctors because a lot of times the medicine the doctors had didn't do them poor soldiers suffered much good. But I knew about the herbs, and I would make a poultice, and I would make a tea, and I would make things to help them get stronger. Some of them was just too far gone, but some of them I was able to save. Soon after that, somebody come again and say, Harriet, we want you to be a spy. We want to send you way on down to the Southland to see if you could help us root out these Confederates. Well, my biggest time was when I was on a boat going down the Combahee River. I was standing at the head of the boat and I could see them big old plantation houses. Now, most of the white folk was gone because they scared. But it was still slaves up in there and they didn't know what to do. And I just stood out there. We pulled the boat in. I got off and I said, y'all got to come on now. Come on, get your pie in the sky. It's time for you to go on to your freedom. Come on. And at first they didn't come. Took a long time. But then 1 or 2 at a time, they started coming out. And sometimes they would have a chicken, or sometimes they would have a sack with some kind of food, because they didn't want to leave no food behind. It was so scarce. There were 500 people that we gathered from the Combahee raid. We went on back up that river, took those new freed men and women and children on back up to an outpost where the slaves could be. Well, they weren't slaves no more because they was free now. Well, I got so many stories to tell. I don't want to keep y'all too long. I want you to know when the Civil War was finally over, it was a bloody, terrible war. When it was over, the government asked me to work one more time. And I knew if I didn't get on back to try to make a new life, to make a better life, nothing was going to change. So I turned them down that last time. Went on back up to New York. Tried to ride the train back to New York because I was a soldier. I had my papers and everything. I got on the train, sat down, conductor told me I couldn't sit there because I was colored. And I said, I got my papers. They took me right out my seat, threw me back in the baggage car. And I knew the Civil War hadn't changed nothing. Well, I was hurt, but I got on back to New York, got on back, helped my people there. We didn't have no money. So we had fruit trees, and I would make apple pies, and I would sell apples to get some money so we could keep it on. And then when I got back to New York, there was a man there. Told my family he was waiting on me to come back. Said he knew me from the war. Man named Nelson Davis. Well, I didn't rightly remember him, but he remembered me. Nelson Davis became my second husband. He was kind of sickly. He didn't live real long, but we had a good life together for the time that he did live. Well, now, I believe it must be time for me to get on back. I want y'all to remember that we are all every day traveling from hope to faith to God be praised every day. Now I want y'all to sing my favorite song with me. Just sing it to yourself right there in your house. Everybody ain't got to hear you. You and God will hear you singing. Okay? Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet, coming for to carry me home.
Thank you. Thank you, Lorraine.